Hello everybody, this is Gary Matheny. It is June 2025 and I am the commentator for Liberty Observatory, the podcast that you can find on YouTube. The Liberty Observatory comments upon various issues of the day, and today's issue relates to the strikes by the USA on the Iran nuclear sites. The missile strikes, the bunker bombs that occurred just a couple days ago. Last week, for about 18 minutes, I did a podcast on in defense of Israel. And so if you want to hear that, go to Liberty Observatory. And I did not, in that podcast, advocate for the bombing of Iran by the USA. But now it's happened. It's happened over the weekend. And I thought that a little bit of historical perspective would be appropriate in this matter. The Islamic Revolution in Iran occurred in the 1970s. So we're talking about 50 years ago. And what they did was they set up what I call a radical Islamic state. It's Islamic. It's outspoken Islamic. Outspoken advocate of jihad. From very early on, their chant was death to Israel, death to the USA. And that policy by Iran has not changed over the last 50 years. Iran sponsors terrorism throughout the world. Hamas, Hezbollah, any other Islamic terrorist group, either directly or indirectly, Iran has sponsored or aided and abetted. Their policy of death to the USA and death to Israel has not changed over 50 years. It's been their policy. That's their long-term goal. And if they can be credited for anything, it is that they have not hit the ball. They have been very, very outspoken about that from the word go. Death to Israel, death to the USA. So look at the USA policy. The USA policy for about 50 years, forever and a day, ever since they had a radical Islamic state in Iran, is that the USA will not allow Iran to have nuclear weapons. They're not going to allow it. It's been a policy through, 4 presidents at a minimum, 5 presidents. And so basically, how do we know that Iran has nuclear weapons, are preparing, assembling nuclear weapons? Well, I go back to the old theory that if it walks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, then it's most likely a duck. Iran is using enriched uranium over and above what's required for a nuclear power plant. So, that's one factor. Another factor is that they've been, for quite some time, developing missiles capable of nuclear bomb delivery. In other words, they're compatible with delivering a nuclear bomb. That's another factor. Another factor is they got these secret bunkers. If it was just about nuclear power plants, why would they have these secret bunkers that are buried so far beneath the surface? So like I said, if it looks like a duck, if it waddles like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. So we got plenty of evidence that Iran has proceeded with assembling, putting together nuclear bombs. Now, we don't know how far necessarily they are in the process because we haven't actually got a tour of the bunkers. You know, has anybody ever been asked, any Western man, any president, any ambassador from the United States been asked to tour the nuclear weapons bunker of Iran? No. But we look at the factors, and the factor says, yes, that's the direction that they're heading. So now let's take a look at how U.S. presidents have dealt with the issue in the past. The first one would be Obama. Obama tried bribery. There's no other word to really use. He delivered about $2 billion in cash on a barge to Iran. So he was basically just trying to buy time. He was trying to bribe Iran from pursuing nuclear weapons. Didn't really work. They took the money and used it for whatever purpose that they want, and their nuclear program continued. Well, what about Biden? What did Biden do as it relates to the Iran nuclear weapons threat? He tried appeasement. He eased sanctions and tried to bring Iran into the world community of nations more fully. In other words, if we can appease them, if we can show them some love, so to speak, by easing sanctions, they would be more welcome within the community of nations, and maybe they'd stop being so radical when it comes to the Islamic Revolution. And I can say this unequivocally. When you look at all the Middle East nations, Iran is far and above the most radical Islamic jihadist nation there. They're the most outspoken and most aggressive, pushing an agenda that involves an Islamic revolution. So now we come to Donald Trump. Well, things eventually come to a head, right? Think about your life. One point or another, things tend to come to a head and they have to be dealt with. You can't keep them in the background forever. So Trump took the initiative, and he sent those bunker blasters or bunker buster bombs to nuclear weapon sites in Iran. Now, just because I'm pro-USA doesn't necessarily mean I think the USA should have sent those bombs there. This was Israel's fight. We could have provided arms and supplies, which we've done. We've done that with Israel. We've actually done it for decades. But to involve ourselves personally by direct missile launches to Iran, it raised the stake. We had a proxy nation that was willing to and needed to eliminate the nuclear weapon threat of Iran. And we could have supplied equipment and supplies for that. But now we have rolled ourselves directly into the mess, and we will see what happens. Thank you very much.